United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You gotta savor it. I move the bills, claims, and vouchers and statement of funds on hand as of April 30th, 2025 be accepted as submitted.
I second that.
Mortimer,
Here, yes.
Perrin,
Yes.
Whites,
Yes.
Winograd,
Yes.
and Vagianos.
Yes. I move that the Village Council minutes of March 26th, April 1st, April 2nd, April 9th, and April 23rd, 2025, having been reviewed by the Village Council and now available in the Village Clerk's office, be approved as submitted.
Second.
Mortimer,
Yes.
Perrin,
Yes.
Whites,
Yes.
Winograd,
Yes.
and Vagianos.
Yes. We have several wonderful things going on tonight, and so if you'll indulge us, we're all going to go into the well so that we can do this a little more up close and personal.
Will we do multiples out there or just? Just for the
Maybe we won't.
Are we going to stay out there for all of them?
Yes.
Okay.
We do. We have microphones. We're all set to go. This is one of the nights that we really enjoy because a lot of people are doing a lot of things. We have a lot of things to celebrate and be happy about. And so we're going to begin with a proclamation that Pam is going to read for the women gardeners who do so much for our village. We're so greatly appreciative. So if you will all come up and join us.
Whereas in July 1925, a group of women headed by Mrs. C.W. Stockton formed the Women Gardeners of Ridgewood due to the fact that women were not allowed to join the Garden Club of Ridgewood, founded in 1914 because membership was restricted to men only. And whereas the Women Gardeners of Ridgewood, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, is a charter member of the Garden Club of New Jersey and is also a member of the National Garden Clubs Incorporated, the Garden Conservancy, the Ridgewood Guild, and the Ridgewood Chamber of Commerce. And whereas the Women Gardeners of Ridgewood has a long tradition of community service, including creating the small garden beside the Lester Stable, as well as the butterfly garden at that location, designing and maintaining the outdoor plantings at Ridgewood Public Library, as well as providing weekly flower arrangements for the library reception desk, and seasonal decor in the library's entrance hallway, designing the garden for the Share House on Prospect Street, making tray favors for Meals on Wheels during the holidays, planting the beds by Memorial Park at Van Nest Square along East Ridgewood Avenue, and decorating the dormant beds with colorfully wrapped presents during the holidays. I love those. And creating centerpieces for fundraising activities of local charities. And whereas since 2007, the Women Gardeners of Ridgewood have held an award-winning junior program, Green Kids, which meets monthly with children in grades 3 through 6, explores and discovers nature, science, gardening, art, birding, weather, recycling, and has enrolled hundreds of young gardeners who interact with the Women Gardeners of Ridgewood to share the experience of creating and promoting horticultural activities. And whereas in 2017, the Women Gardeners of Ridgewood opened the Garden Gate Resource Library on the second floor of the Gatehouse in Habernickel Park, which is open to the public and other village groups for consultation about gardening questions or concerns with members of the Women Gardeners of Ridgewood. And Whereas, as part of its educational efforts, the Women Gardeners of Ridgewood hold biannual education days featuring major speakers, workshops, and boutiques, which will be next held in April 2026. And whereas the many wonderful activities of the Women Gardeners of Ridgewood is supported by a biannual Secret Gardens tour, which has become the New Jersey's premier garden tour, with over 500 visitors coming from all over the metropolitan region. And whereas on June 8th, 2025, the Women Gardeners of Ridgewood will be holding their 100th anniversary Secret Garden Tour featuring 9 private gardens in Ridgewood and Ho-Ho-Kus. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim June 8th, 2025 as the Women Gardeners of Ridgewood Day in recognition of their 100th anniversary in the Village of Ridgewood, and thanks the Women Gardeners of Ridgewood for their beautification of public spaces, their educational efforts, and their public service to the Village of Ridgewood, and wishes them a heartfelt congratulations on their 100th anniversary and continued best wishes for another 100 years. Don't let it get wet in the rain. Thank you so much. Yep. You deserve it, for sure.
Would you like to say a few words?
I'd just like to say thank you to all my garden club members, and my vice president, Maria, and Mrs. Barbara Ferrante, who is indispensable, yes, and we're Cynthia, also indispensable, and Irene. We're about 50 members, but it seems usually there's like a certain amount that do a lot of work, and these members do. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We enjoy what we do, and it's a pleasure. So thank you.
You know, the work that they do is so beautiful, and I just want to take a moment. For those of you who don't know, our village manager was recently married, and he, of course, could have been married anywhere, but he and his bride chose the butterfly garden behind the stable for their marriage because of the beautiful work that you guys have done, and we appreciate it so much. Never mind. Yep. We're going to move on to the next one. Let's get a photo. Let's all get in tight. Here we go. Get in a little closer. There we go. And now Frank is going to read a proclamation for the James Rose Center. So if you guys will come up, that would be terrific.
I'm excited to do this, and it's interesting to think about that the James Rose Center is known internationally. So for those Ridgewood residents that have never been there, it's a treasure in our own backyard, and I'd really encourage everybody to go. So the proclamation goes, whereas James Rose, a pioneering champion of modern American design, built his groundbreaking home in Ridgewood in 1953, and it is a world-renowned example of a more sustainable approach to World War II suburban development. And whereas James Rose's National Historic Register listed home has been recognized for its design excellence by the American Institute of Architects, the American Society of Landscape Architects, and numerous other national and international historic preservation and design organizations. And whereas the James Rose Center as a historic home is currently known, contributes to the Ridgewood community by offering classes, tours, lectures, and exhibitions, and other special events focused on the integral relationship between individuals and the environment. And whereas the James Rose Center explores the interrelationship between people and the environment to contribute to a more sustainable suburban condition through preservation, research, and design. And whereas in 2025, the James Rose Center has guided tours, yoga in the treetops, a 3-part series of transformational breath work, classes in sustainable and eco-friendly lawns and beekeeping, as well as volunteer opportunities for summer interns and adult docents. And whereas the James Rose Center has been recognized by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood as a significant cultural resource for the Village of Ridgewood, as well as the United States of America. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim and recognize May 17th, 2025 as the opening day of the James Rose Center. Thank you.
So I want to, thank the Village Council for their ongoing support of the James Rose Center. I am the associate director there. My name's Kevin Rose. I have no relation to James Rose. But it's, the support of the center and the support of the community is really what we live on. It's the reason that we're there, and it's the reason that James Rose wanted to donate his home and become a public service venture, essentially. And so I do, as Councilman said, I do encourage you to come and visit if you've never visited before. We're actually just across the street from the high school. We're at 506 East Ridgewood Avenue. And as the proclamation says, we are opening this Saturday with tours as well as yoga, and you can check out our website at jamesrosecenter.org to see all of the events that are upcoming in the spring and summer. And so I just invite you to come and kind of visit this space that is so unique within Ridgewood and within the United States. So thank you again.
And now Evan is going to read a wonderful proclamation for our wonderful emergency services personnel. Let me skip that. Here you go.
All right. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas the Village of Ridgewood's emergency medical services are provided by the members of the Ridgewood Fire Department, who engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas the firefighters/EMTs of the Ridgewood Fire Department are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas this year, May 18th through 24th, 2025, marks the 51st anniversary of EMS Week, and this year's theme, We Care for Everyone, recognizes the dedication of EMS on medicine's front line. Whether it's assisting injured persons from a motor vehicle accident, or helping an elderly patient who forgot to take his medication, or a person experiencing chest pain or treating an overdose, the Ridgewood Fire Department firefighters/EMTs are trained and ready to deliver a wide range of medical interventions and support. And whereas in the 51 years since EMS Week has been established, this profession has made enormous strides in pre-hospital care, data collection, emergency management, and community-based health care. Comprehensive EMS systems have been developed that are ready for any kind of emergency, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, whether or not that includes going to the hospital. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim the week of May 18th through May 24th, 2025 as Emergency Medical Services Week in the Village of Ridgewood, and encourages village residents to support the Ridgewood Fire Department and to thank them for all they do for our village every single day. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everyone. Just a quick thank you to the Mayor Council, our village manager, and to our previous village manager. Heather, thank you for all of this. Most importantly, though, thank you to the men and women of the Ridgewood Fire Department. They are the ones that go out day and night, 24 hours a day, 365 to serve this community. The residents, the visitors, they are here for them all the time. If it wasn't for them, for those who know or don't know, there is a EMS crisis in the state, we'll say, for response, the ability to get ambulances. That is not an issue in this village. It's never been an issue right now with everyone here. I just want to thank them. They're the reason that everyone's safe in this community. So, thank you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to stress the point that Chief Judge made, that when the volunteer crisis hit and we lost our ambulance corps, the people of the village never noticed, because these guys were there every day. It was a seamless transition, and we are very, very fortunate to have them. So I just want to say that. And now we are going to move on to National Military Appreciation Month. Lou, why don't you come up and join us? And Siobhan? All you.
I ask if there are any other veterans in the group. Please come on. Come on.
So before I read this, what an awesome night and so many things to be so grateful for. I'm so thrilled I get to read this. My brother was in the U.S. Navy. Ridgewood is his hometown, so with much gratitude, we are reading this. Whereas in 1999, the United States Congress designated May as National Military Appreciation Month to encourage all Americans to remember those who gave their lives in defense of our freedoms and to honor all the men and women who have served and continue to serve in our armed forces, as well as the families whose sacrifices support them. And whereas May was chosen for this commemoration because it includes several significant observations that recognize the contribution of our military, including Loyalty Day, which was established in 1921, Victory in Europe, V-Day, and Children of the Fallen Patriots Day. The month also encompasses Military Spouse Appreciation Day, Armed Forces Day, and concludes with Memorial Day, when we honor all those who made the ultimate sacrifice. And whereas the National Military Appreciation Month serves as a unifying declaration encouraging all U.S. citizens to recognize and celebrate the service and sacrifice of our military community. And whereas the many men and women of the Village of Ridgewood have served in the United States Armed Forces, and their bravery has helped preserve the liberties that enrich our community, our nation, and the world. Whereas the following national observances in May serve to highlight the dedication and contribution of military personnel and public servants are as follows. Loyalty Day, May 1st. Public Service Recognition Week, May 4th through the 10th. Victory in Europe, May 8th. Armed Forces Day, May 17th. And Memorial Day, May 26th. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim May 2025 as National Military Appreciation Month, and it calls upon all residents to join in recognizing and honoring the service of the current and former members of the United States Armed Forces and to participate in the national observances throughout the month. Thank you very much. Sure.
So, first, I just want to thank the Village Council for their support of American Legion Post 53 and for all veterans. Thank you for your ongoing support. Thanks the Village of Ridgewood for their support as well. And I just want to call out 2 upcoming events. Again, on Monday, May 26th at 11 a.m., we will have conduct our 106th consecutive Memorial Day service in Memorial Park at Van Ness Square. And also this Saturday at Valois Cemetery at 9 a.m., we will be putting down flags by the grave sites of 1,000 veterans, approximately 1,000 veterans. Post 53 will be working with local scouting organizations and other youth groups. But we welcome all who would like to come out and help put down some flags. So thank you.
And we have 2 more proclamations, but I think we can do them from the bench.
Not a proclamation.
Yeah.
And actually, we have 3 more. And I'm going to read this next one very proudly. It is for Pride Day, which is going to be celebrated this year at Van Nest on June 7th at 1 o'clock. It's going to be an all-day affair. The Ridgewood Guild has graciously moved their spring marketplace to that day, so it's going to be going on from 11 to 6. There'll be a bouncy house, there'll be music all day, lots of vendors and lots of fun. So, whereas the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood recognizes the human rights of individuals everywhere and embraces the rights of all people to live their lives freely in a world that is accepting and respectful. And whereas for far too long, members of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning community have been marginalized, dehumanized, and demoralized for merely living in a manner consistent with our nation's fundamental beliefs of life, liberty, and freedom for all. And whereas, sadly and regrettably, persons of the LGBTQ+ community have faced prejudice and discrimination, and too many have had to hide or deny their sexual orientation in order to keep their jobs or to live safely in their communities. And whereas the Village Council recognizes there are still many challenges before us, and we must stand together, firm in our resolve to reject acts of prejudice and acts of hatred and violence against any person for any reason. And whereas senseless hatred, bigotry, and intolerance has no place in society, and it is incumbent that village leaders and all residents foster greater empathy, understanding, and caring for each other. And whereas members of the LGBTQ+ community have made important and lasting contributions to our village, state, and nation by enriching our lives and helping to encourage and develop a more inclusive and thoughtful world. And whereas members of the LGBTQ+ community include our acquaintances, our coworkers, our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones, and our family members. And each and every one deserves respect, understanding, compassion, and the right to love whoever they choose. And whereas the Village of Ridgewood embraces all of our brothers and sisters, appreciating our similarities and celebrating our differences. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim June 2025 as LGBTQ+ Pride Month and encourages village residents to celebrate our diversity and recognize the need to embrace all members of our community with love and acceptance. Please join me in a big round of applause. Thank you. And now, Pam, will you please read the proclamation for National Cancer Survivors Day?
Thank you. Whereas today, more than 18 million Americans are cancer survivors thanks to advances in early detection, treatment, and research. And whereas surviving cancer can leave a host of problems in its wake with physical, emotional, and financial hardships often persisting for years after diagnosis. Treatment with challenges including access to cancer specialists and promising new treatments, denial of health and life insurance coverage, financial hardships long after the initial diagnosis and treatment, employment problems, psychological struggles, and the strain on personal relationships and the profound fear of recurrence. And whereas the Village of Ridgewood has an active and productive cancer survivor population, demonstrating that cancer survivors can live active, productive lives even though they still face many challenges. And whereas communities all across America will be celebrating National Cancer Survivors Day on Sunday, June 1st, 2025, as part of the world's largest annual cancer survivor event. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim June 1st, 2025 as National Cancer Survivors Day in the Village of Ridgewood and urges all residents to join in this joyous celebration of life.
Thank you, Pam. And now our last proclamation of the evening will be read by Siobhan. It is for National Gun Violence Awareness Day.
Whereas each day 120 Americans are killed by gun violence and countless others are injured, with Americans being 25 times more likely to be murdered with guns than people in other developed countries. Whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is one of the highest responsibilities of the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood, which is why support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from dangerous people. And whereas June 2nd, 2025 would have been the 28th birthday of Hidayah Pendleton, a teenager who marched in President Obama's second inaugural parade and was tragically shot and killed just weeks later. Whereas a national coalition organization has established National Gun Violence Awareness Day, which is inspired by a group of Pendleton's friends who commemorated her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to others hunters when out in the woods, and orange is also the color that symbolizes the value of human life. Whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands, as well as encourage responsible gun ownership to keep our children safe. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim June 6, 2025 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the Village of Ridgewood and encourages all residents of the Village of Ridgewood to support efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human life.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. And now we will go to our public comments. Anyone? We have someone on our public access. Dana, you're up.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. And Mr. Mayor, congratulations on your eldest daughter's birthday.
Thank you so much.
Somebody was paying attention.
We try. Okay, so here's my message to you guys.
Would you please identify yourself?
Oh, of course. Thank you. I'm so I should do that. Dana Glazer, 61 Clinton Avenue.
And just so you know, going forward, Dana, we have declined to ask for anyone's address, just to state going forward whether you're a Ridgewood resident or not. So we are good.
I'm a Ridgewood resident.
Proceed.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Village Council, Mr. Mayor, Village Manager, and also members of our police department who are watching. I'm speaking to you today on behalf of many of your residents, as we are deeply concerned about ICE and how it could impact our community. There is a growing trend of ICE seeking cooperation with local police departments in terms of detaining people, and it is important to address this issue at this juncture. The courts, including the Supreme Court, have found some of these deportations to be illegal as due process has been ignored. As you may know, there's a detention center currently in Newark. According to New Jersey state law, that center was put there illegally. When the mayor of Newark went to this detention center last Friday to address this illegality, he was arrested. This too is seemingly against the law, as federal law allows this sort of visitation to occur by members of the government. There have also been incidents in which people who participated in the January 6th insurrection and who have been pardoned are now working alongside ICE to detain people. This too appears to be highly illegal. These conclusions point to the fact that ICE is consistently working outside of the bounds of the law, due process, and the U.S. Constitution. We are concerned that eventually ICE and its agents will seek cooperation with the Ridgewood Police Department in detaining people in our village based on trumped-up charges without a judicial warrant or proper identification. Since 2018, the Immigrant Trust Directive has limited the information New Jersey police officers can share with federal civil immigration agents. The directive also prevents officers from detaining people based on suspected or actual immigration status and from questioning someone's status unless relevant to a criminal investigation. So, we are wondering if A, ICE has reached out to you already for cooperation, and B, and if so, have you addressed this issue? And B, if they haven't yet, how are you planning on responding to them? In the past, Village Attorney Matt Rogers has responded to similar questions that there must be compliance with the law. But what are you to do when you are being asked to cooperate with an agency that has proven itself to be seemingly working outside of the law? While this crisis has not necessarily reached our doorsteps, there are things that you can do to help us reassure us that this is taken seriously and that we will be protected from such cooperation with ICE. There are other municipalities in New Jersey who have signed resolutions in favor of protecting immigrants' rights and the rights of all citizens against unlawful detainment and deportation. We are asking you to create a similar resolution on behalf of all residents here. It would go a long way to reassuring us that you are taking the situation very seriously and doing what you can to mitigate this crisis. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dana. Anyone else? Seeing no one, I'm going to close public comment, and we will go to our manager's report.
Mayor, if I may just respond to Dana.
Forgive me.
So first, Dana, I want you to know that we have had robust discussions about this particular topic here in the village since last fall and certainly since January. I think it's important for everyone to understand that while the village police department in some capacities reports to myself and to the council and to the administration here in the village, the police department also responds directly and is accountable to the Attorney General's office. I don't think it's any secret that the current Attorney General in New Jersey is not necessarily in line with the administration in Washington, D.C., but the Ridgewood Police Department, as all law enforcement agencies throughout the state of New Jersey, are responsible to follow the Attorney General's guidelines in this space and in many others. Just to reassure the public, I know Captain Ender is here tonight on behalf of Chief Lyons, who is out of state at a training seminar. But Glenn, will you just come up to the podium and give both Mr. Glazer, the public at large, and the council just some perspective on the Ridgewood Police Department's interactions with the Attorney General's office when it comes to the issue of ICE.
Glenn, if you could speak into the microphone. Yeah, it's
Is the green button? Green light?
Is that working now?
much better.
All right. Again, Glenn Ender from the Police Department. As you were just saying, that we do follow the Attorney General guideline, and what they issued in 2018 is something called the Immigrant Trust Directive. It was revised in 2019. And the gist of the Immigrant Trust Directive is to have us, is designed to strengthen the trust between New Jersey's law enforcement community and the diverse immigrant population that we have in New Jersey. What it does, it limits the types of voluntary assistance between the Ridgewood Police Department or municipal police departments and state police departments. with the federal ICE. And it does 4 specific things that limits our interaction with them. The first is that New Jersey police officers cannot stop, question, arrest, search, or detain any individuals based solely on the actual or suspected immigration status. We cannot ask the immigration status of any individual unless doing so is necessary to ongoing investigation of a serious offense and relevant to the offense under the investigation. We cannot participate in ICE's civil immigration enforcement operations. And finally, we cannot provide ICE with access to state or local law enforcement resources, including equipment, office space, databases, or property. Again, every Ridgewood police officer has been educated in this directive from the Attorney General's office, and we do follow this directive as well. So just to make that perfectly clear of our involvement with ICE. Any questions in regards to this?
Questions, anybody? Captain, you've made it very, very clear. We really appreciate you taking the time to let everyone know that, first, the chain of command for the police department does not go through the council or the manager. It goes from the chief to the Attorney General. And he is the one who has issued these directives. And thank you for reading them so that we all understand exactly where the village is on this.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Cap.
And I see that someone had their hand up, and it was kind of in and out before. So we're going to recognize her and briefly reopen public comment for Denise. Denise, you're on mute, and there you go.
Okay, now the question is, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Okay, I think I deserve 6 minutes today, since I couldn't get on last time.
We tried so hard to get you in last week.
I know. Thank you for that.
But
Denise
that's why we're reopening for you, because you keep trying to get in, and it just hasn't been working out. So go ahead.
Thank you. Denise Lima, Ridgewood resident. Great proclamations tonight. Good to hear everything. I think the Women Gardeners is just a hidden gem. They do so much. I think people don't appreciate all that they do. So thank you for that. I want to talk about accidents that are happening on East Glen Ave and Northern Parkway. 3 in the last 2 weeks. There was a T-bone today at the corner. I know we've talked about this several times. I know several council members have run on safety, that they live in the neighborhood as well. And I just want to remind everybody, just a visual, when people are coming down the East Glen Ave hill, approaching Maple Ave, they are flying down the hill to get to the light to be green. They can't wait to get into it because they're shooting down to Route 17. They go a half a mile past Maple Ave before they see their first speed sign that says that it's 25. So for a half a mile, they have no idea. They're still flying through. They're still trying to get out to Route 17. And by the time they see that sign, they're 1 block from Travell. Somebody has to do something. Northern Parkway is a cut through for all of the school kids to get to high school. I can't emphasize it enough. People need to do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
That was just one.
That was it? No. Well, good. And
Okay.
with that, I'm going to close public comment.
Can I continue? Hello?
Oh, yes, you have another. I'm so sorry. I thought you were done. You have
Yeah.
another minute and
That's my
16 seconds or so.
First thing. Thank you. A few councils ago, I asked, and residents have been asking for an overview of our fleet inventory. Still have not seen that yet, so just a friendly reminder. And what reminded me was the $400,000 we're going to spend on fuel/oil, 25-41 tonight, which is based and approved out of Clifton. So I'm not sure what that is. Do all our fleet vehicles go to Clifton to fill up? Again, just sounds like a lot, so the fleet overview would be great. I also see 25-246 remediation, $354,000. I thought the original owners were going to be paying for that. and not Ridgewood residents. So just a comment there. And then last is, I did attend the Fields Committee meeting, and two things I just wanted to call out. I don't know whether there's selective hearing or marketing spin on what happened there or not happened there, but I was pretty clear in making recommendations on what we should be doing with the Shedler House, specifically just tailoring after the T. Thomas Fortune House in Red Bank, very similar layout, and they're very productive on how they're using that house and its revenue generating, and also partnering with the church and the schoolhouse, where we have storage upon storage of items that we could be sharing at the house as exhibits under glass. So I don't know why people are not hearing it, but that's kind of what happened during the Fields Committee. And again, I'd be happy to connect to those dots. The other thing that's coming out, that keeps coming out, is the Olmsted Brothers beautiful renditions of the parks. You know, they're known for Central Park, the Golfo Brook Park in Hawthorne, absolutely beautiful. And there is a historic house in the Golfo Brook Park. There is no turf field next to that house. There is a grass baseball field that was elegantly designed to match the aesthetics of being next to the house. The turf field is at the back end of the 100 acres, down a hill, and hidden from neighbors. So you wouldn't see it if you're driving on Golfo Ave, that there's a turf field down there. It's lovely situated. Again, nobody can see it. It's nowhere near the historic house, but that came up at the Fields Committee meeting. And I just wanted everybody to know that that's not accurate. The Olmsted Brothers.
Denise?
Actually,
Denise,
yep.
if you could finish up, you're out of time.
Yeah, I'll stop there then. That's fine. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, and I'm glad we were able to get you in tonight. So, with that, I'm going to close public comment again. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say in response to Denise's comments?
Mayor, just quickly, I saw Captain Ender writing down about the speed sign on East Glen, so I'm sure that he'll take a look at that and see if there's anything that needs to be adjusted. Rich Calby is working through our fleet inventory. We actually just recently submitted our inventory to the Bergen GIF, so we are going to work on a presentation probably later this summer on that issue. And lastly, with regard to the $345,400 change order tonight, that is not on the town garage property. That is actually on the adjacent property, the village parking lot located on North Walnut Street. So that project is under the village purview and at the village cost. It is not the town garage property.
I'd like to also comment that, Denise, thank you for telling me there was another accident at Northern Parkway in Glen. I wasn't aware of the one today. Tomorrow night at 7:30 is the Citizen Safety Committee. So if you can make it, it's in Village Hall in the garden room. But I will bring up that incident to the committee so we can note it there as well. And I do know that this year's budget has allocated money specifically for pedestrian lighted crosswalks, which are slated for Glen. So we are aware of it, and we're going to keep doing it until we have our streets safe. Thank you.
And I also wanted to respond. Yes, we heard the idea of a museum. We have met with the Bergen County Historical Society, and we've met with people. But what we need is an organization beyond the idea that has the revenue to give to us, the insurance and standing. So Denise, if you know of somebody seeking space for public use, not for storage, we would welcome it. We have taken steps to partner with everybody, but no one has any money to pay us, and we can't have the building be a storage facility for historical items because it has to serve the public use.
Anybody else? All good, let's move on. Keith, manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief tonight in light of the long agenda with the budget. But first I want to deliver a big shout out to the Ridgewood Fire Department. This week they broke having trained 100 people in CPR training. This includes village staff members, committees, community members. I know that we had a near tragedy during a Parks and Recreation Commission meeting last year, and this was in direct response to that the fire department really took the mantle and made a commitment to train as many people here in the village as we can on CPR training. So, Chief Judge, to you and your team, we appreciate your commitment to this, and we look forward to you continuing this endeavor in the future. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to drive down to Ewing, New Jersey, in the pouring rain, to meet with the Chief of Staff and the Assistant Commissioner at the Department of Transportation. Pleased to report that we are going to apply for the bus station grant now that we have a tentative plan that will be presented most likely at a council meeting in June. But we are going to apply for a local aid grant which will replace the old bus station at Van Ness Square. So I want to thank Chris Scales, the Chief of Staff from the DOT, for taking the time and really for working with us over the last year with the support of our 40th District legislators to put this money aside to help support the new bus station downtown. And finally, this morning, we had our final 4th of July planning meeting. I want to thank all the departments who have a hand in making sure that we pull off an awesome parade and a spectacular fireworks demonstration each and every year. I want to thank the volunteers from the 4th of July Committee for all the work that they do to put this together. Some new things happening this year, just a few logistical changes, but looking forward to a great 4th of July celebration here in the village. On the announcement side, registration for Graydon Pool and the tennis pickleball badges are ongoing. These registrations can be conducted through Community Pass. For in-person assistance, staff is available Monday through Friday at the stable from 8:30 to 4:30, and for in-person at the Graydon Badge Office on this Saturday, May 17th, from 10 a.m. to 12 noon at the Graydon Pool site. The Touch a Truck Day for tomorrow has been canceled due to inclement weather. But I want to thank the committee that's put that together each and every year. Unfortunately, the weather's not going to cooperate, but we do look forward to next year's event. The Ridgewood Beautification Team, their planting day is also this Saturday, May 17th, beginning at 7:45. The committee is still soliciting volunteers. Anyone interested can contact Councilmember Winograd, and she'll set you up to help on Saturday. The last day to register to vote before the primary election is May 20th. We'll have late night registration in the lobby of the Ridgewood Library from 4:30 till 9 p.m. As a reminder, the 2-day per week irrigation effort is in effect. Odd numbered addresses for irrigation are Tuesday and Saturday, and even numbered addresses for irrigation are Wednesday and Sunday. No irrigation is allowed on Monday, Thursday, or Friday. The 48th annual Ridgewood Run will take place on Memorial Day, Monday, May 26th. The course starts here at Veterans Field and is sponsored by the North Jersey Masters. Please visit njmasters.com for further information. The Memorial Day holiday is, as mentioned, Monday, May 26th, and will be observed in Memorial Park at Van Ness Square at 11 a.m., as Lou shared with us earlier tonight. That event will be hosted by American Legion Post 53. Also on Memorial Day, the Village of Ridgewood offices will be closed. There'll be no sanitation, recycling, or yard waste collection on that day. Please check your village calendar for the adjusted schedules and collection dates. The Valley Hospital and the Community Center of Ridgewood Foundation, in conjunction with Older Americans Month, will be hosting a lunch and learn on Tuesday, May 27th from 11:30 to 1:30 in the Youth Lounge on the first floor of this building. There is no fee for this event. Registration is required by May 23rd, and you can sign up through Capture Point Community Pass. We will also have Ridgewood bus service if needed, so please call the manager's office to coordinate that. Graydon Pool will be opening on Saturday, May 31st, 11 a.m. to 7. These will be the hours for the entire season through Labor Day, September 1st. And lastly, Village Council meetings upcoming. May 28th is our next work session. June 4th is a work session. June 11th is the June public meeting, and June 25th is a work session, all beginning at 7:30 p.m. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Keith. Let's go to our council reports. Siobhan, you want to start it off?
Sure. So I don't have that many, but just to dovetail on what Keith said, on Monday night, we had the pleasure of attending HPC. So we've been working on the restoration of the bus station, and we met with them because prior to coming to council, HPC will approve it because the bus station is in the historic district. I want to thank Stacy Sapasarius and Evan's whole committee, who is a team full of experts, for their opinion. I also want to thank the Ridgewood Police Department because they've been heavily involved in how the structure will be, how it will be safe, and how it will be maintained. So we're very much looking forward to the next step, and thank you to HPC. On Tuesday night, we had a Shade Tree Commission meeting, which was excellent. And there were many takeaways, but I want to remind everybody that Adopt a Sapling's window to adopt, not to plant it, closes Friday. So if you're interested and you live in the Willard area, I see we have a Willard person who can adopt a sapling. You can fill out the form online, and it will be placed in the right-of-way in front of your home in the fall. So please, if you have friends in that area, we would love to have as many saplings. We're about 65 saplings in. We'd like to get to 100. And additionally, if you're not in Willard and you'd like a tree, we still have open street trees. We have about 90 trees left. So anybody who wants any type of sapling or tree, please let us know. I also want to remind everybody that this Saturday, one of the best things to do is come out and make your town beautiful. It sounds very silly, but I want to thank the Ridgewood beautification team. Some members are here. It's really easy. The gardeners in the group make it kind of mistake-proof, and we're going to be planting throughout the village. We meet at 7:45 in front of the War Memorial. All you need to bring are gloves and a shovel and a good attitude, and this is happening rain or shine. And I know Deputy Mayor Perrin's going to be there, and Paul is definitely going to be there too. So anyone interested, just reach out and let me know, and just come prepared to dig. Thanks.
Shouldn't they bring a trowel rather than a shovel?
We're going with the shovels, trowels, it's all okay. We have extra, we have a bag of extra supplies, and we'll be set. Whatever you want to bring.
An experienced person from the office, from the audience, is saying trowel. So for those interested,
we have the bag. We have bags with vests and everything. If you forget everything, we will have stuff. Most importantly is come with a good attitude and caffeinated so you can plan.
Thanks, Siobhan. Frank?
Thanks, Paul. So Open Space met last week. We talked about space that could be opened in Ridgewood and how we can continue to bring that to our community and the value of it. And we also referenced the diversion, and that just, we're looking forward to when that progresses and being able to apply for grants that once that's clear. And then also this past Monday, the Ridgewood Arts Council met. I was unable to attend, so I have nothing more to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Evan?
Yeah, I'll be brief. It's only been a week since we were last here. So as Keith mentioned, we had the July 4th meeting this morning. I attended that. I want to thank Tara Masterson, all the wonderful volunteers who do this all on behalf of the village. It doesn't cost us anything. It's completely done by fundraising. I also want to thank all the village staff members that were there who ensure that we have a safe and great July 4th every year. Just a wonderful group of volunteers and a great success story. As Siobhan mentioned, HPC met this past Monday as well. In addition to discussing the bus station, I am pleased to announce that we did vote unanimously in favor of an ordinance that's going to address demolishing houses in the village. That's going to go on to the ordinance committee, and then I suspect you'll see it in this council probably in the next month or two, where hopefully I can introduce it because I think it's a wonderful piece of legislation.
Thanks, Evan. Pam?
Well, I'd like to thank Dawn Citrullo, Director of the Health Department, for holding the rabies clinic last week. It's always fun to see all the dogs, but it's very efficient. The line goes very quickly, and it's stress-free. The dogs don't mind, and it's just one of the perks of living in Ridgewood. It's so nice to have this for public health. I also want to thank Bob Rooney, our CFO, for meeting with Central Business District Advisory Committee last week and bringing in our account manager for Park Mobile and also the police department, and they answered a lot of our questions. And we'll be looking at what improvements CBDAC thinks might be appropriate based on their answers. The planning board will not be meeting on May 20th. That meeting has been canceled, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Pam. And I have some fun announcements. Our varsity baseball coach, a gentleman by the name of Kurt Homan, who is a resident here in Ridgewood, this week broke the all-time winning record. He has more wins than any other coach in Bergen County. Let's give him a big round of applause. We're going to honor him at a future meeting. And while we're on great coaches who coach our kids, Michael Lucchese, who is our varsity hockey coach, was voted Coach of the Year by the Coaches Association. Let's give him a big round of applause. And we had a new store opening this week. Perhaps you've heard of it. It's called Tate. It's in the old Joseph Banks facility. And first, I went there on opening day. I've been to so many openings in the last 30 years. I have never seen anything like it. And then when I ate the food and drank the lattes, I started to understand why. So I recommend you all give it a try. It was absolutely fabulous, and they got something going on. And that is the end of our comments. And so now we will go to our regular agenda. And with that, I move the clerk read ordinance 4046 by title on second reading, and that the public hearing thereon be opened.
Second.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Perrin?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 4046?
Calendar year 2025, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 40A:4-45.14.
The public hearing is now open. Seeing no one, I move the public hearing be closed.
I second the motion.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Perrin?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes.
I move that ordinance 4046 be adopted on the second reading and the final publication as required by law.
I second the motion.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Perrin?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. And now we will go to our budget hearing. Keith?
Mayor, at this time, I'd like to call up our CFO, Bob Rooney, our municipal auditor, Bud Jones, and his partner, Brian.
And gentlemen, you will forgive us. The chairs have been removed, but don't stand. Just grab one in.
Yeah, by all means.
Yeah, come on over. Yeah, come on over here.
What happened to our chairs?
I don't know.
We moved them for the proclamations.
There you go.
Oh, where'd they go? Oh, they're, yes.
And if you all just make sure that the microphones are on, there's a green button, and if you could speak directly into the mic.
So Mayor, as these gentlemen get comfortable, I just want to reiterate some of the things that we've talked about over the last number of public meetings, starting with our series of budget hearings, then with the introduction presentation, and then the discussion that we had about the added assessments at the work session. I can tell you that I first want to thank all of our department directors, and especially Bob Rooney, for the tireless work that they've put in to putting the spending plan together for 2025. I believe wholeheartedly that this is a fiscally responsible budget with a minimal impact on taxpayers. On April 9th, we introduced this budget. It's a $64.8 million budget, and the tax increase comes down to a 3.14% increase over last year. That is consistent with the rate of inflation in this area of the country. And for the average Ridgewood home assessed at $712,700, this translates to a municipal tax increase of approximately $149.63. It should also be noted that it almost matches last year's number. So by illustration, we're keeping consistent with the balance that we need to be able to continue to progress and move forward with the initiatives and the priorities that have been set forth by this council, by the administration, and by our department directors, while at the same time keeping the taxpayers in mind. It should be noted that the village's tax base grew by over $200 million this year, largely because of the former Valley Hospital property being entered into the tax rolls by our tax assessor. The village is committed to providing high-quality services, supporting public safety, maintaining our water and wastewater infrastructure, planting new trees, improving our parks, and continuing a robust road resurfacing program. These were the priorities that were outlined by our directors as we went through the budget process, and I am confident tonight, and I think Bob shares this sentiment, that we are confident that this spending plan meets that balance between keeping the taxpayers in mind and making sure that we can pursue the initiatives that I just outlined.
Gentlemen, welcome. If you'll take a moment to identify yourselves for the public, that would be great.
Bob Rooney, Chief Financial Officer.
Bud Jones, Auditor with Nisavacia.
Brian Gibbons, Auditor with Nisavacia.
Thank you so much for being here tonight.
So, Mayor, with that, before we move on to council comments and then the budget hearing, we do have amendments that need to be made to the budget. This is after the state review. They are rather ministerial in nature, and they have been directed to be made by the Division of Local Government Services down at the Department of Community Affairs. So, Bob, if you would review for the council and the public the changes that the state is directing you to make on this budget before adoption.
Absolutely. Thank you and good evening. So the amendment that is required by local government services results in an appropriation reduction of $151,000 and a movement of approximately $900,000 of funds that we budgeted inside the cap for health benefit coverage that is required to be moved outside the cap. So the resolution reflects the movement of the health insurance premiums outside the cap. We needed to adjust the public employees retirement system to agree to the actual bill, which was a reduction of $97,056. We had an increase to police and fire retirement system to agree to the most recent bill of $22,800. We need a reduction to get inside our cap appropriations of $76,744. So that was $9,500 was reduced from Village Council OE, and utilities was reduced by $60,244. On the revenue side, we're required to include in municipal relief funds, which we had received last year of $29,181, and the balance of $180,181 was reduced in receipts from delinquent taxes. Therefore, the revenues equal the appropriations. Any questions?
Nope. Proceed.
Mayor, at this point, we have listed on the agenda village council comments, and then we'll move to open the public hearing on the 2025 municipal budget.
Comments?
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, go ahead. First, I want to thank the village's staff for their work on this budget. This was my first process of going through it, and it was really amazing to see how the different directors prioritized what their needs were for the village, and they realistically focused on what was needed. This wasn't a pie in the sky. It was really weighted well, very professional, and I enjoyed the whole process. And while no one likes to have an increase in taxes, especially my fashion twin, Evan, but considering everything that this budget delivers, $150 per household is a pretty good thing. And so there's a Swedish word, Paul, and it's called lagom. And what lagom means is not too much, not too little. So think of Goldilocks, always finding the middle. And that's what lagom means, is that's how you should live everything. You should try to make sure that you don't have too much and not too little. And that's what I feel that this budget does. It's balanced, and it lands in the sweet spot of providing residents with the services they need while keeping the increase to a minimum. And now, as Denise mentioned when she called in, I did run on citizen safety, and I'm excited that this budget will include things that'll make our village safer. First, that, in the Citizen Safety Committee, we're always hearing requests for more traffic studies, signage, make our streets safer. And in the operating budget, we're going to be able to backfill the police positions that have been open, and that will give the traffic division more headcount so that they can do what the residents have been asking for. Then in the capital budget, as I mentioned, there's going to be additional pedestrian activated crosswalks that have been paid for. And a few of the other capital expenses that I'm really proud that are in here is at the recycling center, they're going to get new locker rooms. And having toured that facility, I can't wait till you guys get it, because it's a sin that you've had to have that for so long, and I'm proud that this village is going to support you and give the people that work hard for this village a proper place where they can just relax before and after their job. The Ground Master 5900 is my personal favorite, if for no other reason, it has the best name of equipment I've ever heard. But that'll also, what it will be used for is to cut Vets Field, which is the pride of our village. Everybody who drives through Ridgewood sees it, and to be able to keep that mowed and in great condition will be great. And finally, as Graydon Pool is about to open in a few weeks, that we need to replace the sunshade that was there, and this budget accounts for that too. So again, it is Lagom, because everything the residents want and need is accounted for, and at $150, that's a great price. So thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Well said. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to just say briefly a couple of things. And we spend more time on the budget than any single topic, which is important because I think this is probably amongst the most important things we do. Keith, I want to thank you and your entire staff. It was not always, there was definitely some controversy, some back and forth, but that to me is the mark of a good budget hearing. If we all agree with each other, then one of us is not doing our jobs. Also want to thank you, Bob. I thought your office did a tremendous job putting together this budget. And also our independent auditors, thank you for being here tonight, but more importantly, thank you for going over the budget, ensuring that we're legally within all the regulations and that this is a sound budget. As my colleague said, very proud. We're adding 4 police officers. We're adding 2 firefighters. We're investing in Graydon with improvements. There are no cuts to any public services. Again, no cuts to any public services. We're investing over $2 million in our roads. That is tremendous considering the shape of some of the roads when this council took office. The fact that people can drive around Ridgewood right now and not be constantly hitting potholes is because of the infrastructure improvements that we've made. And of course, I think amongst my favorite things, the probably most boring part of this budget, but for fiscal folks like me, it's exciting, sinking funds, which sound kind of interesting, but what that means is we're putting money away every year against expenses we know we're going to have in the future. This is fiscal responsibility defined. This way, in 10 years or 15 years, when we need a new fire truck, and we have a $2 million hole in our budget because we got to buy that fire truck, we're setting aside money every year so that when that fire truck needs to be replaced, we have money in the bank to pay for that fire truck, and we're not sticking the bill to a future council. Similarly, with the turf at Maple Field, regardless of your viewpoints on turf, that needs to be replaced. It's not cheap. We know it has to be replaced every few years. We're setting aside money every year so that, again, nobody gets stuck with a huge bill. Again, this to me is the epitome of fiscal responsibility. Nobody likes raising taxes at all. Nobody hates it more than me. The fact that we're doing so at a fairly flat rate, consistent with inflation, consistent with last year, again, speaks to, I think, the hard work that we all did. And again, I just want to thank everyone who had a part in putting together what I think is a very sound fiscal budget.
Thank you, Evan. Well said. Anyone else?
Sure. First, our staff, who, for those who are watching, can't see, all our directors are here. People who worked all day are sitting through this very long meeting very patiently. To Bob and your team, and obviously our auditors, we're very grateful. I don't want to be redundant with the individual projects, but the difference between this budget and my first one is that embedded in it was longer-term planning through the sinking funds and through the discussion of we can do this year, but that leaves next year undone. We've widely improved several of my campaign strategies and Evan's as well. Deep commitment to our parks. We're moving a lingering issue of Shedler forward. Nobody placed better grass than the village on Hawes Lower. You should all go check it out. It's open, it's beautiful. We've enhanced communications greatly. This is probably the first year we've had such a digital response to our budget, and that's a good thing. Even if we didn't like all the responses, it was great to see the interaction. And downtown, Tate leaves us at 10 vacancies. So I am hopeful that, you know, by midsummer, if we keep it up and everybody comes to go to Tate, they might want to rent a store and we could be into single digits of vacancy. And of course, trees. We're very grateful for the commitment to Shade Tree and all that we've done. Not represented in the budget, but something that I'm also want people to understand in terms of finances is we became incredibly grant worthy through the work of Millennium and Carol and Keith's office and Heather as well. So we were we were able to soften our tax dollars and improve our experience here through the grant writing process. I could go on and on. I think Evan's afraid I might, but I just want to say thank you. You really, it's such a unique position to be here and work with such talented people, and to our staff, I'm forever grateful.
Thanks, Siobhan. Pam?
I'm always amazed that our departments work with such a lean staff. Every year you start the budget process with what you think you need, and we ask you to cut back and cut back and cut back. And I know that takes a lot of creativity, so I really appreciate it. And in the last few years, I really appreciate that our professionals have kept us with our AAA bond rating. That's great. That really makes me feel proud and secure. I am so pleased at the infrastructure that we're able to improve, from the pedestrian bridge to the sidewalks to paving the roads. It really is an amazing project all over town, and I really appreciate everybody's work towards this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. And my council colleagues, I think, have said it all so well, and I echo all of their comments. I do not wish to be redundant by repeating them. I will point out one thing that I think is critically important. For that $700,000 home that's going to have a $149 municipal tax increase, remember that that is the municipal portion of the tax increase, that more than 2/3 of the tax increase is based upon the Board of Education, and there are county taxes, and so you'll see a larger tax increase, but from this council and from this staff and this administration, it's $149 for a $700,000 home, which, let's take that up a notch. For a $1.4 million home, it's $298. For a $2.1 million home, it's a little over $400. So that's why I'm really proud of the work that everyone in this room has done. So thank you very much. And with that, we will go to our public hearing. So will the village clerk please read the title of the 2025 budget?
2025 budget for the Village of Ridgewood, County of Bergen, and State of New Jersey.
The public, excuse me, good. The public hearing on the 2025 budget is now open.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Boyd A. Loving, Ridgewood resident. Just a point of housekeeping. Who should we address our questions to? Mr. Roonish going to be answering questions about it, the manager, or the council?
If you just address your questions in general, then depending upon the question, we'll determine who is best suited to answer it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. My first question concerns a comment Mr. Moody made earlier this evening, and that is that there were some amendments that were required to be changed by the local finance board. My question is that he went through the amendments pretty quickly. I didn't write them all down, but I'm just wanting to know if the tax increase percentage changed as a result of anything to do with those amendments.
And we're going to hold, we're going to hold all our answers until the public hearing is done. But we're going to write down all the questions so that we can respond.
So somebody's going to be writing down these questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. I recall that on the slide deck that was presented during the introduction of the budget, there was a comment on the slide deck about needing to make sure that village properties that were owned were rented out, and I believe that the Shedler House was the one that was on the slide deck. In late 2023 and early 2024, there was much to-do made about the village renting out the taxi stand. In fact, one council person even suggested that people should go over and welcome the new tenant. As far as I know, that tenant did not move in. I know I've asked at least on 2 occasions about that, and there was some answer given as to the tenant had some sort of business problems, something that prevented him to go in. There were even parking signs put up that were subsequently taken down. And I was very surprised when I heard that the tenant had signed a lease, and it was the expectation that we would be collecting rent for the entire period of time that he signed the lease for, and I never got an answer back as to whether that rent was collected or not. So I'd just like to know what the status of that rent was, number one, and number two, what the status is of that property in terms, I know it's a minimal amount in comparison to some other rents, but just what is the status of that property? Are we still looking to rent it out? It is an asset. It is vacant. The last time I went over there, at least it was vacant. And I don't know whether that is still has a plan to rent it out and get some revenue for the taxpayers or not. So that would be another question I have. What's the status of that in terms of, are we trying to rent it out still? And did we collect our money from the tenant who said that he was going to move in and did not move in? My next series of questions pertain to what happened at Valley Hospital. I'm sure that the attorney may say that some of these questions can't be answered, but question number one is, I believe the manager stated at some point in time within the past couple of weeks that it was a state law that we were required to book those assessments. So as soon as a property became no longer a hospital, we had to put that piece of property on the books. We had to put the assessed piece of property on the books. I don't think anybody ever asked the question, now, along with putting the assessed property on the books, did we have to also put down, account for the amount of tax revenue that we hope to get from it, which is, I believe, somewhere between $5.2 million and $5.3 million a year. So were we required by state law not only to put the assessed value in, but were we required to put the amount of money that we hoped to collect in as well? And I know I spoke to somebody from the Board of Education today. They haven't counted on getting their share of the money. I don't know what percentage of that money would be going to the Board of Education, what percentage would be going to the county. My key question is, what is the dollar amount that would be coming to the village budget if we collect that money in 2025? I think it's somewhere around 1.6 million, but if I could just ask Mr. Rooney to verify what that amount is. Maybe it's more like 1 million. I'm sorry, it's more like 1 million. Also, the manager reported that at last, in 2024, I think we collected somewhere just over 400,000 from Valley. And then, of course, they moved out of town, so we're not collecting that anymore. None of that money went to the Board of Education. However, a good portion of the 5.3 million would be going to the Board of Education. If we could just break down what percentage of that money is going to the board and what percentage of that money would be coming to the village, or a dollar value, rather. So Valley was contributing, or gave us slightly over 400,000, I believe it was the number, in 2024. And then all of a sudden there's an expectation that in 2025, they've got to come up with between 5.2 and 5.3 million. I know there's a court case going on now with respect to their unwillingness to pay that number, I guess. A question I have we negotiated, has that been resolved, or is that still an open matter? The reason I ask that is because if that is still open, I would anticipate that they're not going to be paying anything until it's closed. What effect is it going to have on the operation of the municipality if none of that money comes in this year? Do you have a contingency plan if whatever amount of money you expect from Valley for the municipal use does not come in because that court case is not resolved and the judge is siding with Valley and says, don't pay until we resolve this? If you're missing $1 million or slightly over $1 million, what are you going to do? Do you have a contingency plan? And I guess that about wraps it up for my questions. The other thing I'll say is, Chief Judge is still here. If you are going to have any kind of medical emergency, have it in Ridgewood, no other municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Boyd. Anybody else from the audience? Seeing no one, we will go to our public access. Saurabh, you're up.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Barely, Saurabh. If you could speak a little louder and slowly.
Okay. Mayor, I will be speaking louder and slowly, but I'm requesting no interruptions when I'm speaking. My name is Saurabh Dani, 390 Bedford Road in Ridgewood. So my first opening question is either for the village clerk or the attorney, that my understanding is I'm supposed to be able to get the answers for my questions during public hearing when I'm asking the question, so I can frame my follow-up question. Is that not a correct assumption?
That is not the case. We are taking all questions, and our staff is writing them all down, and they will be responding.
Can I get confirmation from Matt Rogers on this?
Well, actually, Saurabh, is that there is no requirement that the discussion comes into a question and answer type forum. You're permitted to ask questions or make comments. There's nothing in the statute, nothing in the Open Public Meetings Act that requires a direct response or a direct answer to every question. That's a matter of choice. We're going to try and do it this way so that we at least try and address everything we can, but there's no requirement to do so. But we're going to, as the mayor said, we're going to take questions, going to write them down, and try and give answers when we're done.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. So my first question is for the professionals that are sitting in front of you, not on the dais, because this is not a political question, this is not a marketing question. So actually all of my questions are for them so far. My first question for the professionals is, would it be correct to state that municipal tax levy increased from 39 and a change to 42 and a change, and these are in millions, and that increase is about 6.6% in municipal tax levy on property taxes. So again, I'll rephrase the question or restate it, and it is for the professionals that would it be correct to state that municipal tax levy increased from 39 point something million to 42 point something million, which is a 6.6 or 6.56% increase in municipal tax levy on property taxes. My second question is also for the professionals. The mailer, I received a 2025 budget newsletter or a budget mailer, and that mailer says or states the village council introduced a 64.8 million budget with a 3.14% municipal increase. So if my first question's answer is that the municipal tax increased from 39.x million to 42.x million, is this sentence correct from financial perspective? The sentence says the village council introduced a 64.8 million budget with a 3.14% municipal increase. My third question is also for the professionals, and the question is, would you agree that when we use the term consistent with the current rate of inflation, that is usually used to reflect the increase in expenses? Whenever we are talking about, hey, our expenses are going up, the inflation is going up, and when we say we are consistent with the current rate of inflation, we talk about expense part of the balance sheet, not the revenue part, right? Would you agree with that statement that whenever we talk about inflation, we talk about increasing of expenses part of the balance sheet, and then where it says that the flyer says this municipal 2025 budget newsletter states that our municipal increase is consistent with the current rate of inflation in the Northeast. So would that be misleading or not? And my fourth question is for the mayor, because mayor stated that there will be increase. So there's a $149.63 increase for municipal portion, and on top there will be Board of Ed portion. So what is that Board of Ed portion, and how much is that increase? Because you said there will be total increases will be more, but this one is smaller, so what is that Board of Ed increase? CEO has that number, village manager has that number, so I don't think you will have to tell me that. You have to look it up. At least one of them you can answer that. And last one is my comment for Councilman Evan Weitz. Councilman, you mentioned that there are disagreements, but I don't think there is a disagreement, at least from my side, from where we are spending money or whether our professionals are keeping a tight budget or not, or whether you are questioning resolutions that are coming to you or not. My disagreement is on none of those things. My disagreement is on the messaging to the village residents. The village residents were misled by the central figure here during debate time for what is the ratio of teacher and student in our district. And again, this campaign is misleading here. It's misleading to tell the village residents that expenses on the village side are increasing with the rate of inflation. So it's the wording. It's not coming out. Every other town in Bergen County, even our Board of Ed, everybody else presents comparison of last year's budget, this year's budget, what's the difference in tax levy. They don't use the term loosely, like mixing the revenue side and expenses side. So thank you.
Thank you, Saurabh. Anyone else? Seeing no one, I move the public hearing on the 2025 budget be closed.
I second.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Perrin?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
Vagianos?
Yes. Keith, I know that I saw all of our professionals and you writing down every question, so I'm going to ask
So we'll
that
respond to
you,
these.
that you
Sure.
delegate to the most appropriate person to respond.
So first, to Mr. Loving, the budget amendments make no change to the bottom line tax increase, has no impact. The issue with regard to the taxi stand, we do have a tenant there. As I understand it, they have not occupied the building, but they have paid the rent for the term of the lease in full. I know that after you approached the council at a previous council meeting and brought this issue up, Chris Rudeshauser, myself, and the mayor actually met with the tenant. I believe that there was some personal or business obligation that he had overseas, and he indicated to us at that point that he had to take care of those issues before he got back to the States and planned at that time to occupy the space. But the rent is paid in full for the term of the lease. With regard to Valley Hospital, I did state at a prior meeting that the tax assessor, who is guided by the state of New Jersey, was required to add this as an assessed property. Back in 2021, a law was passed by Governor Murphy, or passed by the legislature, signed by Governor Murphy, that established what is called the per bed tax. Now that is not something that falls under traditional property taxation. That is an assessment separate from property taxes that was levied on the hospital based on the number of beds that they had in the hospital during that calendar year. We received about $500,000 for a full year payment on that, but that is separate from traditional property taxes. Once the hospital moved out of the village and relocated to Paramus, that was the property, per bed tax was no longer applicable to the property where the former Valley Hospital operated from. That was the impetus for the tax assessor to review the property, consult with the county, and make the determination that it needed to be added to the tax rolls effective May 1st of 2024. But I'm going to yield to you on the strategy that has been brought up both here at the podium and in the village during this budget season about how you account for the tax revenue that may or may not come from a particular property. I'd rather discuss this in hypotheticals rather than specific to a ongoing tax appeal matter that we have with a specific property owner. But if you could just talk about the state law that has to do with the added assessment and the state law that has to do with the municipal budget process, and how it is not possible to extract one property based on their ability or inability to pay.
Thank you. Oh, and by the way, congratulations on your marriage.
Oh, thank you.
As you said, it's correct.
He's on.
The assessor is required to assess all properties within the town, cannot show any kind of favoritism or exclude any property. They are, in a way, above the control of the governing body also, because they don't specifically answer to the governing body for those things. They are required by the state statute to follow certain guidelines and to interact with the county board of taxation and follow those rules and regulations. So they must assess that property. They're required to. The collection or non-collection of taxes for properties that are assessed go into a tax sale. That tax sale can occur as early as December 11th within the current year, or any time thereafter into the next calendar year. There's a benefit and a detraction, I guess you would call it, from going earlier. There is an interest rate of 18% once you get over $1,500 of property taxes. Obviously, no one wants to pay 18%, but it is a nice rate of interest for the town to collect on delinquent taxes. I know the town would prefer to collect the taxes within the current calendar year.
So, but is it safe to say that there is no ability for any governing body in New Jersey who is considering, in the part of their consideration process of putting together their municipal budget, you cannot alter the budget based on one or multiple projections about whether certain property taxpayers are actually going to pay their tax bill?
Correct. The net valuation taxable is reported to the county by the assessor, and that's the amount that the tax rate is struck on.
So, for example, if you had a taxpayer who owed the village $1.2 million, and there was a question about whether or not they may or may not pay, there's no way to budget in preparation for the fact that they may not pay.
That's correct.
Okay, and the contingency plan, to use Mr. Loving's terminology, is the tax sale process.
Yes.
And also, can you just speak quickly about the reserve for uncollected taxes line item?
The reserve for uncollected taxes serves twofold. It serves for cash flow purposes for the town. The town is required to collect all taxes, whether levied by the town, the county, or the school district, and they must pay those taxes first before those taxes come to support the operations of the town. So at any point, the cash flow must be at a certain level in order to pay those county taxes and those school taxes before paying the town's bills. In addition to that, there obviously are certain properties that do not pay taxes, and the reserve for uncollected taxes is a budgeting mechanism to try and account for them to some degree. It's a rather simplified method, but it's different than other states. It's very strict and conservative and required by New Jersey statutes.
Okay. Mr. Loving, to your point about the Board of Education, I don't know who you spoke to over there, and Bob can back me up on this, but just as there is no way to budget in preparation for a taxpayer paying or not paying, the school board also cannot do that. So I can tell you that when Bob shared the new assessment numbers with the business administrator at the school board, the impact of the added assessments amounting to over $200 million for this year actually took the school board's increase of 2% and actually reduce the impact on taxation by, I think it was approximately $80 on the average home assessed at $712. So the same anomaly that happened here happened at the Board of Education once they had those assessment numbers and they built that into the budget that they adopted. So I'm unclear on how they could infer to you that they prepared a budget based on a potential taxpayer not paying, but I don't see how that can be possible based on what Bud has said.
And that would never be a concern of the county or the school, because the town takes all the risk for collection of taxes.
Right, exactly. With regard to the 2025 budget, it was in the mailer, but I'll just reiterate the breakdown because it was requested to be said. Approximately 62% is the Board of Education, 24% is the village, 11% is the county, and then the balance is the 2 open space funds and the municipal library tax. We talked about the tax sale. It is public knowledge that we do have tax appeals that are pending with Valley Hospital. I won't get more into the details of that, but you know, that is something that's a public-facing document. With regard to the comments by Mr. Donnie, but I'll yield to you on the municipal tax levy, and if you could just explain how the significant increase in ratables impacted the tax increase that was represented in the flyer that Mr. Donnie spoke about tonight, which is 3.14 on the municipal increase on a home assessed at, well, across the board, but the home assessed at 712 came out to 149.63.
I believe that looking at the increase on an individual property as an average makes much more sense to the taxpayers of the village. An overall percentage increase is not relevant to a person who's paying their taxes. They want to know what the increase is actually going to be that they will have to pay out of their pocket for that year. So to me, that is the relevant percentage that I would want to know as a taxpayer.
And with regard to the inflation question, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, April 2005, the rate of inflation in the northeastern region of the United States is 3.2%.
And there was a question for the mayor, which I find interesting that you're asking me what the Board of Education portion of the budget is, since you sit on the Board of Education. But as we have sent out to every member of the community, and as Keith just said, the Board of Education portion of the increase is 62%.
And Mayor, if I could just piggyback on that, I just want to reiterate what I said earlier. When the Board of Education introduced their budget, and I believe I'm correct in saying this, they introduced it at a 2% increase. And then subsequent to their introduction, Bob and I were asked to take a meeting over at the Education Center on Cottage Lane. We went over there, we met with the professional staff, and I think by the time I entered the room, because Bob gets to work earlier than I do, he had filled them in and populated all the numbers into the Board of Education spreadsheet, and that was what those additional ratables that were earned is what reduced the tax increase to a tax reduction of approximately $80 or $81 on the average home as it relates to the Board of Education budget this year.
And I think there was one question sent to me, although it was by the wrong name. Sarab, I think I've known you for about 10 years. You can call me Evan, but if you use my last name, it's Whites. I know it's a little ethnic, not Wheats, it's Whites. With that, regarding your, my comments around disagreements, that was not a reference to disagreements with the public. If you watched any of the budget hearings, and I know we had some, but not a great audience for that, I asked some rather critical and pointed questions of our staff and of Keith's staff. My comments were meant to assure Keith and his staff that my criticality was not out of malice, but rather out of what I think is a sense of duty by those who sit on here to be critical when we spend village money and to be good stewards of village funds, which again is what I think this budget does. But certainly disagreements that I referenced were, I think, healthy disagreements amongst the council and the staff about how we spend village money, not necessarily disagreements with the public.
And with regard to the litigation, Matt just mentioned to me that the tax appeals are still pending. As a matter of fact, again, without getting into detail, our tax appeal attorney, as recently as last week, has sat down for a status conference on this matter, and we're continuing to work through this through discussion of the attorneys and discussion of the professional staff on both sides.
Anybody else?
And Mayor, also, for those who are interested in the budget amendment, it is in the transparency binder. It is the second page of Resolution 25-227, and it breaks down all of the numbers that Bob referred to when he explained the amendment earlier in the meeting. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Does anybody else have any comments?
I just want to say something because the general public will be asking this. This is an extremely unique situation to have a hospital vacate, and I want to thank everybody. I personally learned a lot about what our role and responsibility was with the tax assessor. I also want to remind people that on the agenda, when we discuss these matters in closed, it's because we don't talk about people and property out in front because we can have an impact on the value of the property. So you'll see things like when we did the town garage, we talked about it in closed, and that makes the most sense.
And it's litigation.
Yes, and litigation, of course. Our lawyer's going to say that. But for the general person, when they watch this, sometimes people think discussing things in closed is secret, and it's not. We disclose what we're discussing, and that's because words out here can have valuation on property, people, and our litigation. So I just want to, again, say having a hospital vacate and having that large parcel of land is completely unique, and I want to thank everybody, including, you know, again, for the people watching on TV, all our department heads are here, the tax assessor's office. I imagine this is one of the most curious things to discuss because it doesn't happen very often. So I hope that makes sense, and I just want to take it to a more basic, everyday taxpayer of why was it this, why is it that? There's no secret. It's just that this is a large parcel of land, and it's a big deal for us. This has not happened, and there's not a lot of precedent.
Thanks, Siobhan. Anyone else? And with that, we will move on to our resolutions. Gentlemen, if you'll stick around for a few minutes while we finish this part up.
Okay, the following resolutions, number 25-227 through 25-228, are to be adopted by a consent agenda, including Resolution 25-227A. There is a brief description beside each resolution. They will be read by title only. Amendment to 2025 budget. Authorize temporary water capital budget and adopt 2025 budget. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Perrin?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your attendance tonight. We really appreciate your insights and your explanations. They've been very, very valuable.
And Mayor, through you, I'd also like to release the balance of the department directors who are with us tonight. We have an early morning staff meeting tomorrow, which I will remind everybody is going to be conducted on the Shedler property, not here at Village Hall. So expecting to see everyone bright and early, and I appreciate you being here tonight for the budget adoption.
Yes, and on behalf of the council, I want to thank all the department heads who are waiting patiently in the event that questions arose. So thank you all so much tonight.
Yeah,
Safe
thank you.
home.
Thank you, guys.
And with that, let's move on to the Ridgewood Water section of our agenda. Heather.
There are no introductions or public hearings for Ridgewood Water. The resolutions will be considered on the consent agenda with one vote by the Village Council, and they will be read by title only. Award sole source contract, upgrade SCADA system hardware and software for PFAS facilities. Award sole source professional services contract, engineering field services, on-site programming, wiring, and startup services, new wells. Award professional services contract, professional engineering services, hydraulic modeling. Authorized change order, professional engineering services, PFAS treatment plant, ravine well site. Refund water overpayment, 552 Cliff Street. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Perrin?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. And with that, we will go to the introduction of an ordinance for project labor agreements. I move the first reading of ordinance 4048.
Second.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Perrin?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. So ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 4048 by title?
An ordinance authorizing the Village of Ridgewood and the Construction Trades Council, AFL-CIO, its affiliates and members, and the execution of the project labor agreement.
I move that ordinance 4048 be adopted on first reading and that June 11th, 2025 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
I second the motion.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Perrin?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 4047 by title on second reading and that the public hearing thereon be opened.
Second.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Perrin?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 4047?
An ordinance authorizing the acquisition of certain real property easement interest within the Village of Ridgewood.
The public hearing is now open. Seeing no one, I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Perrin?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes.
I move that ordinance 4047 be adopted on the second reading and final publication as required by law.
I second the motion.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Perrin?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes.
The following resolutions, numbered 25-235 through 25-253, will be adopted by a consent agenda with one vote by the Village Council. They will be read by title only. Award sole source contract, e-ticketing application. Title 59 approval, maintenance of irrigation systems, water fountains for contract years 2025 and 2026, Parks and Recreation. Award contract, maintenance of irrigation systems, water fountains for contract years 2025 and 2026, Parks and Recreation. Award contract, disposal of street sweepings. Award contract, replacement of backstop Pleasant Park Hawes baseball diamond. Award contract under state contract, ammunition for the police department. Award contract under state contract, gasoline and diesel fuel. Award contract under New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Alliance, emergency mass notification system for the Village of Ridgewood and Ridgewood Water. Award contract under Educational Services Commission of New Jersey, asphalt hot patcher dump trail. Award professional services contract, conduct and prepare Phase 3 of the Special Improvement District. Authorized change order, Kingsbridge Lane pedestrian bridge, structural repair. Authorized change order number 2, removal of abandoned underground storage tanks, North Walnut Street. Authorized change order, professional services contract, community outreach for Shedler property. Change name of vendor, resolution number 24164, Bel Air Pump Station repairs. Rescind and replace resolution 23-407, preparation of 2024 Village Council meeting minutes, change name of vendor. Confirm endorsement of Bergen County Historic Preservation Trust Fund grant, James Rose Center improvements. Appoint member to Citizen Safety Advisory Committee. Appoint members to Ridgewood Community Access Network. And award sole source contract sodium hypochlorite solution for Graydon Pool. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, hold on. Mortimer?
Yes.
Perrin?
Yes.
Whites?
Yes.
Winograd?
Yes.
And Vagianos?
Yes. And with the completion of our agenda, we will return to public comment.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Boyd A. Loving, Ridgewood resident. As I mentioned previously in another meeting, prior to many of you even moving to the village, I've been coming to council meetings. This is the first public hearing I've been at where you didn't allow people an opportunity to come up again once everybody who came up has been up. It is in the guide to village councils. I know I've spoken to Mr. Rogers about this, and he's affirmed it. If the public hearing is going on and somebody wants to speak for a second time, they should be allowed up, but you just cut everybody off. You closed the public hearing before you allowed people to come up for a second time. And I would have come up for a second time because some of my questions weren't answered. Specifically, I asked the question what the dollar amount was as a result of the Valley assessment, the taxes, that was going to be used for village purposes. I just took a quick calculation, and I believe it's 1.2 million, but if either Mr. Brun, it's 1.2 million? 1.2 million, okay. So thank you very much for that. The other comment I have is that my recollection in terms of the taxi stand, that the lease began in November of 2023, and it was a one-year lease that would have concluded, therefore, in November of 2024. It is now May of 2025. It was said that the gentleman has paid out his lease, but did he have a 2-year lease, a 1-year lease? It looks like to me that the lease period is over and the property is still vacant. Is he paying on it? Can somebody just get back to me at some point in time and let me know what the story is over there, whether we have a tenant that's paying or the lease has expired and we currently don't have a tenant. And the last thing I would say with respect to my comments about a, quote, contingency, unquote, plan, we have to be realistic here. Let's not put our heads in the sand. There is a court case. The outcome of that court case could go in the favor of Valley Hospital, and they could wind up paying something other than $5.2 to $5.3 million. Granted, these gentlemen indicated that the law doesn't allow us to do anything special, but there is a court case in progress. I know that you can't talk about the court case and what your strategy is, but my concern is that they may win and we may not see a dime. So my question was, do you have a contingency plan for if that happens? They say, don't worry about it. The law says you're covered. The judge may say something completely different. So is there a contingency plan for what happens if they win the court case, they challenge the assessment, and the assessment winds up with something that they're not going to give us between $5.2 and $5.3 million? Thank you very much. Have a good evening. And remember,
Thank you, Boyd.
if you're going to have a medical issue, have it here in Ridgewood.
Thank you, Boyd. Denise, oh, excuse me, anyone else from the audience? No? Denise, you're up.
Denise Lima, Ridgewood resident. Just want to talk about 25-241, which is awarding a contract for gasoline and fuel, $400,000, to a company that says they're based in Clifton. I just can't wrap my head around how we're going to get fuel from a company in Clifton for our fleet. So I'm not sure what, if somebody could explain this would be great, because I just don't understand it. Yeah, and I don't have the binders through hybrid, so maybe it's outlined there. But that's one of the things about hybrid that we don't have the advantage of. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Saurabh, you're up.
Good evening again. Saurabh Dani, 390 Bedford Road, Ridgewood. First, I want to apologize to Evan. Sorry for pronouncing your last name wrong. I'm going to practice it.
I'm sorry, Saurabh, forgive me. The connection may not be clear. If you could speak more slowly, we just want to make sure we understand you.
Sure. Heather, if you can reset my clock. First, I wanted to apologize to Evan for the misspelling or mispronunciation of the last name. And my second comment is, I just want to put it on record that none of my questions were directly answered. For the first question, my question was not what residents would want to know. As a resident at a public hearing, I asked a question and you basically discarded it, saying that's not what residents want to know. I am asking a question. I want to know. I am a resident. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a citizen. And your answer is, doesn't matter, you are asking a question, residents don't want to know that. So I just want to confirm that is still your answer, because if that is your answer, I'm asking a data question, I'm asking a number question, that what is the relative percent in the tax levy change? And if your answer is residents don't want to know that, I'm going to take it to the state and to the local finance board that at a public hearing, I asked a question and the response was people don't want to know. I'm not asking about other people. I am one person who wants to know the answer. And the second one is, I want to correct you, both mayor and the village manager, not as the member of the Board of Education on the behalf of board, but this came up because the mayor mentioned that 149 is only the municipal portion and there will be more from Board of Ed. And that's where I asked, what is that portion? The mayor stated the increase is 62%. The increase is not 62%. That 62% is the rate, is the portion of total tax, property tax. And the village manager mentioned about $80 increase. That is also not correct. As a result of the Valley assessment or the 208 assessment, the result is negative $80.90 annually. So the average home will see negative $80.90 for the Board of Ed portion of the property tax this year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Seeing no one, I'm going to close public comment, and I'm going to address the very first question, which is, Boyd, I am sorry if you thought that I stopped anyone from asking a second question. I am absolutely certain I said, does anyone else have a question? I usually say it twice. So I never stopped anyone. I did not intend to stop anyone, and if that was misunderstood, I apologize. But I am pretty certain I didn't cut anyone off from asking a second question. Moving on, I'm going to address the question about any contingency plan. Contingency plans and what we do about them, about which way our court case goes, is part of our litigation. And that is not something that we're going to discuss publicly. We don't want to show our cards to our adversaries in any litigation. And as to the taxi stand, Keith, I think you can confirm that they're still in their lease.
I believe that's the case. I'd have to pull the file to see when the lease expires. I actually looked to see if I had it in my email, but I don't.
Great. Okay. And as far Denise, and I'm gonna go out on a limb. This is usually a Keith question, but I'm gonna say that the reason that we can get fuel from a company in Clifton is because they deliver it to our garage where we have a pumping station. Accurate, Keith?
Yes.
And so that's why we go to we purchase our fuel from a company in Clifton. I think that covered all of the questions. Does anyone else have any other responses, or did I miss any of the questions?
Mayor, the only thing I'll say is, and this is just to Mr. Loving, you know, you've said over and over that there's a court case, and I guess in summary that's true, but this is a tax appeal matter, and we deal with tax appeal matters all the time, right? Whether it's a residential property, whether it's a commercial property. I will tell you that we've seen less tax appeals of late because real estate prices are so high that the comps are not on the side of the property owner. But negotiating, and I get it, Valley's a heavy taxpayer in this town, no dispute about that. But our special legal counsel, our village attorney, are well-versed in dealing with tax appeal matters. They've been dealing with them for decades in both of these gentlemen's cases. And I just don't want there to be any type of heightened urgency that this is special. It's a heavy property taxpayer, I acknowledge that. It's the largest taxpayer in the town. But this is a tax appeal matter like any others, and we will allow that process to take its course. When it comes to additional assessments being added to the value of the municipality, as Mr. Jones indicated tonight, there is the tax sale process, there is the reserve for uncollected taxes, and these means are meant to protect the village when it comes to tax appeals or delinquent taxes not being paid. And we're going to work through those legal processes to put ourselves in the best position to move forward. With regard to Mr. Donnie, again, we've spent 6 weeks now asking and answering the same questions over and over. Tonight, our municipal auditor, certified gentleman, one of the most professional auditors I've ever dealt with in my career, he answered the question. I think we've asked and answered this question about the difference between the the tax increase and the levy over and over and over again. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Keith. Anybody else? Nope. All good. Let's entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.